Hey guys, it's Matho here once again, and just before the release of the actual full announcement for the Scourge League, I just want to quickly wrap up for you what some of the teasers and little announcements have been for the past week, and just look at some of the stuff that should get you pretty excited before we even actually know what the league is going to be about, because it looks like it's going to be some pretty big stuff. Just to make the game a whole lot nicer, more fun, and more engaging. So let's dive straight into it. It's mostly kind of, as Chris Wilson did mention, going to be stuff around sort of beefing up a bit more of the, not really end game as such, but some of the chase end game, I guess we could call it. Some of the stuff you really can sort of test your characters against even further and get possibly more rewards after spending a bit of time into investing into these mechanics. And that, to start with, is Unrelenting Timeless Emblem. So you can see that the Timeless Emblems, you could do a 5-way previously, and that's the hardest content Legion had to offer. Now you can potentially do a 5-way with even bigger emblems, and in this case it says 10% increase max life each time they are revived. And typically, you know, let's say you can do like 5-6 passes as a pretty normal character, so they can get like 60 to 100% extra max life. That's pretty large. Penetrate 4% enemy res each time they've been revived, and overwhelm 4% fizz. Those don't seem as meaningful because not too often you're actually dying or taking damage in those 4-way, 5-way type things. It's mostly about the health of the enemy and trying to like beat them down quick enough, but it will still be relevant on some things. 10% improved rewards for basically the 10% max life. Now, once again, this just seems like it's pure headhunter bait, and the rest of us that are playing like pretty normal builds won't be utilizing this too well at all, because 10% improved rewards scaling with 10% increased max life, pretty much 1-for-1. You know, you're not gonna get too much out of it unless you are headhuntering and just balls deep clearing the thing over and over again with nothing standing in your path. So that one's got me not particularly excited compared to some of the other stuff coming. The Delve revamp that they've got, apparently just some new biome modifiers. I would think it says as part of our Delve revamp, so I would think there's going to be more to come. But for this one specifically, as you can see, it does say that there are going to be some few new modifiers. So unique boss drops 17 additional fossils. Now, whether that's one stack or like 17 of lots of different ones, yet to be seen, but that's a pretty nice little chase mod there. Unique boss hits are always crits. Chances are that doesn't matter, because at this level, you know, with these other modifiers, the boss is going to one-shot you anyway if you get hit by it. And then area contains a unique boss. So basically it guarantees that there's going to be a boss in that area. So might just make some boss spawns a bit more realistic as you go deeper down. Hopefully the Delve rework does make things a bit more interesting to do for Delve, because personally, I have just ignored it for a long time, for the past 6 months or so, as the Atlas always takes precedence. But that said, we already know the Atlas is getting cut in half, and that means progressing through the Atlas is going to be a lot quicker. And I do think that means that we can spend a bit more time fleshing out things like your Delve, your Heist, etc., Incursion, whatever. So that's a pretty good one. Because the most fun thing for me about Delve is definitely the bosses, and for them to be a bit more rewarding, pretty good stuff. We then had a very, very controversial item incorporated, and as you can see on the Reddit post itself, it still is sitting at 0 upvotes, and 23% of people have upvoted this one. It's probably the least popular announcement in the history, I think. We looked back, and salvage boxes, which were a complete dumpster fire over an announcement, got better traction than this, because there were still people that kind of liked salvage boxes. It's just that a lot of people didn't. However, this, basically everyone just went, wait, what, why? I don't get it. So Sacred Orb randomizes the numeric values of base defenses on an armor. So the new thing that they're going to introduce is kind of like a Diablo 2 style system, where you can pick up an armor and it can have, you know, a Val Regalia can have 200 ES, or it can go up to 10% better. 220 ES. So it can go anywhere from those ranges, just so that the perfect base that you find is a little bit harder to do, but there's a bit more high-end and a bit more chase in that regard. This orb will then randomize that number. So it's basically like current implicits on items, and it's basically a blessed orb in that regard. So everyone kind of hated it, because basically what they did is said, here's a problem for you that we've just created of, you know, implicit defenses and all that, and here's a solution that you now have to go out and find. So that's kind of how it was perceived to begin with, and people didn't really like that because it's another orb in the game, it's more bloat, and it's just a problem that you've then sold us the solution to. But it did seem that way because, you know, they had a stack size of 10, and it just seemed very similar to Blessed Orbs, which we already know are pretty common and all that. But then Chris Wilson had to dive in and kind of pour a bit of water on this fire, and kind of you know, snuff out a bit of the concern. So the main thing is the fact that they're rare. They're not common, and it's just kind of another option to alter your endgame items if you so, you know, find the right currency or can afford to do so. So he says it's about 3 times rarer than Exalt Orbs, so, you know, realistically just about never finding them. And with that, just the fact that it's so rare, I can completely see where they're coming from with this, because it becomes kind of like a saving grace for some items that are really good, but they may have just rolled a scuffed defense type. And instead of you having, you know, let's just say you pick up a Var Regalia off the ground, which you pretty much never will, right? But let's just say you pick up a Var Regalia off the ground that has all the perfect stats onto it, but it's a horrible roll. You know, it's a minimum roll on the defense modifier, and where it would have potentially been a big win, and you're like, holy crap, yeah, I got the best item possible, or, you know, the best rolls possible, it instead gets tarnished by that defense roll. And if you really have some spare orbs or the right currency to buy these orbs, you can have a go at trying to save that item and making it just that little bit more perfect. Something like that, or, you know, really good uniques that drops, has a bad, you know, roll on it. If it's worth it based on the economic price of this orb, you might be able to make it that little bit better, or save it so it doesn't look a bit as bad. So instead of it just being, okay, now I need Blessed Orbs or these Sacred Orbs to always make the implicit as perfect as possible, it's just a very rare option you're going to take. And at the same time, it doesn't matter that much. Like, you hardly ever need the best possible base type. So people complaining that you might need the best base type, you know, that perfect 220 ES Regalia instead of the 200, it really doesn't matter that much. It's for the absolute min-max of the min-max. People that want to, like, make a mirror item, they're going to need to have the best base, because otherwise it's not worth mirroring. For the rest of us, look, honestly, for the past many years, I've been using like suboptimal bases on Energy Shield, just because they're a lot cheaper a lot of the time, and it makes no impact at the end of the day. If you want to make it just a bit better on yourself, you got a bit more grind or a bit more min-max and a bit more chase to complete at this stage. So it's fine, I think, for anyone complaining. Maybe you'll think I'm just a shill or some shit, but this hardly seems anything worth getting upset about. The next particularly enjoyable change, let's just say, is Eternal Labyrinth improvement. So maybe there's more, but in particular, this one specifically that they've given us as a tease is the fact that you won't need to do 6 Eternal Lab trials before doing your Uber Lab. So previously, you got to maps, you had to find 6 of the different specific lab trials, and then you could enter your Uber Lab. And sometimes you might find the same trial like 10 times in a row, and, you know, you see them one every 10 maps or some shit. So you might have like a level 93 character, if you're particularly unlucky, that never did Uber Lab. This would no longer be the case, and that is very good news. But for some of us that get stuck in white maps early on throughout the, you know, start of a league, because you just chain grinding white maps, you're not ready to go to yellow maps, you haven't found any, whatever, it won't be too much of a difference, because a lot of the time you might actually complete your lab trials by then. But what they're doing is that you now just need 1 offering to use for the map device or for your lab device to access the Eternal Lab, but that can only come from the lab trials that start spawning in yellow maps. So yellow maps is when you realistically should first time see this, but you can also just buy one of these from someone else or get it from alternate content, because these things do happen from alternate content. Overall, I'm just saying that maybe in SSF, and if you're like pretty slow on maps, it might not affect you too much. But overall, for just about everyone, this should be a very positive change and give you access to your Uber Lab pretty much whenever you want it, as opposed to being gated behind a few little pieces of RNG. And you could go ahead and just make the kind of guess that this is just more of an attempt to sort of devalue the process that is the Labyrinth, in anticipation of Path of Exile 2, as Path of Exile 2 is going to be an alternate campaign and system and ability or way to gain your ascendancy points, and maybe it'll be far less painful and annoying than this one. So, by comparison, you want to make Lab more palatable, or maybe just it'll be phased out altogether, who knows. So yeah, that's kind of a big thing there, and that's a good, positive, sexy change. Yep. Next thing is they teased this item, which is potentially pretty goddamn big. So as Chris Wilson himself said, no bad uniques. That will definitely be put to the test, as there's lots of bad uniques out there, and a lot of the time, they might look good, but they're kind of bad. This one, however, is going to drop from Blight, the Uber Blight maps kind of, that they've also teased, and it looks pretty damn good. If it works the way we think it works, can have 3 additional enchantment modifiers. So let's say an enchantment modifier is your anoint, and you can have 3 additional anoints, which means you can have 4 anoints. That'd be pretty goddamn crazy. Like, if that's how that works, and I'm not just mistaken somehow. For a pretty, finely tuned build, an anoint can oftentimes mean about 8 to 10% increase in your total damage output. So if you can get 4 of those, that could potentially be, like 30 to 40% increased damage. It does mean you have to pay more oils, but usually that's not too big of a factor. And for some builds, it'll be, less than that, because they'll only have 1 really good anoint and then a few worse ones. So it will still be somewhat build specific. Not everything will need this, but another scenario I can pitch you is, let's just say you want a really defensive amulet, and you're on the top side of the passive tree, which is a life-based character as well. If you just anoint a bunch of stuff on the bottom side of the passive tree that's pure life, you can get 30 to 40% life with a few extra perks like flat life and strength and all of that. That's pretty crazy for 1 amulet slot. So big item, I think. Could potentially be very rare, or might not work the way I think it works. Who knows? Another one is Iron Will is now a keystone passive on the passive skill tree. So Iron Will, strength damage bonus applies to all spell damage. Currently only on a couple of items that you can really get, but it is worth building around on a few of those items. And this is going to make things a bit more flexible, especially for the meme stuff where you can convert strength to spell damage, strength stacking, and then spell damage to attack damage through Crown of Eyes, that sort of thing. Very relevant in today's world. And if you can just get that on the tree and it's convenient enough, that's a pretty nice little change too. The new Zana map mods for the League, all pretty good stuff. Breach, sure, if you want more of those, only 2C. Essence, very good for farming in the Haywalk zone. Bloodlines, couldn't give a shit. Ambush, pretty good for extra juicing of the maps. Beyond, love your double Beyond, so always good to see that come back. Legion, if you're particularly juicing on the Legion things, very worth farming. And then Blight might be worth farming for the Uber Blights and all of the extra oil rewards and stuff. Seems like a very good spread of Zana stuff. So Fortune Favors the Brave, probably a pretty worthwhile investment to add to a bunch of maps before you have these things. But that's up to the user and individual as to how they like to meta farm their maps and all of that. Next up, kind of just a teaser which says imagine alternate reality where your inventory looks like this. As far as, don't think my cam's covering anything. As far as interesting stuff to note here, this is supposedly the League mechanic. Whatever's happening there, you put something there and we'll figure it out very soon after this is posted. But interesting stuff to note, this kind of looks like the League mechanic, like maybe corrupted, or I wouldn't say corrupted, maybe tainted items that have like some sort of taint on them. So you got a map, you got an item, you got the sword. That largely seems like it would have something to do with the League mechanic, but of other pretty important things to note. You got stackable items here, so your fragments can stack up to at least 10, your scarabs can stack up to 10, and your incubators can stack up to 10. All very big quality of life and convenient changes there. Don't think I missed anything else. I didn't really go over the Reddit thing that other people may have looked at. Maybe some of the new skills there, but I mean, why bother speculating when we'll see everything very soon? So stackable shit, that is just amazing. Good stuff. It should make sorting your inventory for your stash in between maps a lot smoother, and also just picking up more crap. So that's just nice quality of life. And then of course, League mechanic, find out soon. But League mechanic, is oftentimes just the cherry on top of a very good league when there's a whole bunch of changes coming that make the game a lot, better, diverse, and all of that. So it's already shaping up to a pretty good league. League mechanic, oftentimes just going to be that little bit extra. But if it's a good one, hey, not complaining. Ranger's starting area in the passive skill tree has been reshaped a bit, so by the looks of it, just from here, this area should be quite a bit nicer to traverse. It's usually a kind of no-brainer area. You either take, a shield passive, but then spec out of it in your end game build because it's not that worth doing. Likewise with the dual passive. In this case, it seems like it's going to be some sort of elemental related thing. Maybe they're moving the Ellie and Ellie pen from either up top or down below into this one, or maybe creating a whole new one. You do have a much nicer way of traversing this area. Should be pretty worth for a couple of points. It seems like it's probably going to be evasion based, but I'm not going to bother speculating. One of the other things they've done is change life nodes over here. So this was previously just like a, stun reduction, movement speed, some crap. Now there's a couple extra life nodes. Hopefully it's pure profit, and the ranger side of the area just gets a little bit more easy, accessible life. No one would be mad at that now, would they? So yeah, and that's that. I think that's it. I'm not really going to dwell over too many other things. About to find out what the league mechanic is very soon, probably mere hours after I post this video. But hope you guys are looking forward to it. I've had a nice break from Path of Exile playing Diablo 2, but honestly, they're damn near the same game. I hardly feel like I've had a break from PoE at all. And what I mean by that is that Diablo just has, or PoE is so deeply rooted in Diablo 2's history, in how it sort of functioned and what it took from it, that ultimately it's still, I haven't really changed games too drastically. It went from one ARPG that has some sort of complicated system to a slightly simpler one, still just running around clicking and exploding shit, but I'm definitely kind of sick of D2 at this point and looking forward to getting back into my complex and meaningful choices of Path of Exile. Hope you guys looking forward to the announcement. Hope we got some good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video for that one. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.